Hey, good afternoon. It's Randy Byrd, and I am here with you with Tuesday Titans Live. And today I have an absolute special guest, somebody very close to me and my heart. And you're going to hear a little bit about her story right now, but her name is Tiffany Center. She's on the line with me. But before I get to that, I'd love to just edify this young lady a little bit. Tiffany is 26 years old, lives in Redding, California, and primarily lives in Redding, California, but she travels a lot, unfortunately, for her medical needs, as she has cystic fibrosis, which is a terminal lung disease. She's been dealing with that and the side effects of that really her entire life. And that's where I really got to meet Tiffany personally. But because of cystic fibrosis, which is basically a chronic lung infection, it scarred her lungs permanently. And she had to have a double lung transplant at the age of 18. Think about that for a minute. At the age of 18, this young lady had a double lung transplant. In her words, she was gifted with nearly 5 more years thanks to that donor that she owes her life to. Gives me God bumps, but we're going to get into that more. Before the transplanted lungs began to fail, she found herself really back on the organ transplant list. And again, thanks to another complete stranger, which she refers to as her hero, her life was spared again, and she received a second set of beautiful lungs at the age of 23. Now, some 2.5 years later, she's in palliative care because of the complications. When I ask Tiffany to give a little bio or a little background about herself, this is what stands out to me. She said, "What I've learned in all of this is to take each moment for what it is. Don't get lost trying to predict the future, and don't get lost because you're stuck in the past. This all adds up to the same consequence, which is time lost." We already have we already are living a life too short. Life is so beautiful. Don't miss it as it's happening. And that was from the beautiful Tiffany Center. So Tiffany, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure is absolutely mine. And we were reminiscing and kind of catching up a little bit before we went live here. And I forgot a couple of the things that we did together, and I'm excited to share with those today. But basically, I want to tell a little bit about the story, how I met you. And I've been a raving fan of you and your family and your massive following you have. And really what sticks out to me, especially as a coach and somebody that works with mindset and belief systems and stuff all the time, is your belief and your positivity is a level 10. And it's a level 10 a very significant part of the time. Obviously, you share your trials and tribulations and challenges you have for all of us to follow with. But your positivity is absolutely infectious, contagious. And I really love and value and appreciate you because of that. But the reason we're here today, in my opinion, is to bring a little bit of light to what cystic fibrosis is, to some of the struggles you've been through. And then really, I'm just really excited to get to what makes you tick, what makes you stay and have the ability to stay so positive with that. So with that, did I miss anything in the edification? Anything you want to add to that?
You're pretty spot on, as far as what's happened and where I'm currently at in my journey of palliative care.
Right. So, what is your age now? You're 26?
I am. I'm 26, so my birthday's in June.
Yeah, June 7th, right?
Yes, you have a great memory.
June 7th. So, when I met you, it was on the side of the road in Redding, California. They were doing some kind of fundraiser, and I was with my young son at the time. And I stopped really to influence him in giving. I thought, here's somebody that's having a fundraiser. I don't remember exactly. I don't know if it was a car wash, or I think it might even been a popcorn stand or something.
I think so.
Was it a popcorn? So it was something that you were raising money for your first set of lungs, right? Back in 2011, 10, 11?
Yeah, 2011.
2011. So in pulling over, really, again, for my son's benefit, I was touched. I was immediately touched. And, we donated, and then we actually handed out, I don't expect you to remember this, but we handed out popcorn on the side of the road. We were waving down cars. We had we contributed to a successful event, basically. And I left with my heart completely full for getting to know you and your story, but also for the contributions you and your words had on my son. And I'm already getting a little choked up. So I could tell this interview is going to be a good one. So here's the thing: is that it had an effect on me that day, has effect on me today, right? 8 years later, and I'm so blessed to have you on the show. You reminded me, I didn't remember this, but we did some event after the fact, right? After that first initial meeting.
Yes, so you actually have been a huge support and a great, contributor to my fundraisers, because after the popcorn fundraiser, you did also partake in an auction that we did to fundraise, because I was required to move away from home for my transplant.
Right.
And so you actually put on an auction as well. And
it's funny. I recall that now, but I didn't remember that when we first started talking, but it was at Wind River Casino.
It was.
It was, right? It was upstairs, Wind River Casino. And I don't remember, I think people donated items, and I think I was the MC, and we did kind of a silent auction and just, raised awareness and raised money. And I don't remember what we raised. I'd be lying if I remembered, but it was significant. I remember that.
It was so successful. And
it was really an absolute blessing to be involved with that. I think my son was at that event too. I'm almost positive of it, because I remember you and your charm and your beauty and more of anything, your energy was just like I said, it was really magnetizing to myself and to my son, especially at that younger age for him. He's about your age. My oldest is 27. My youngest is 24. I think it was Tanner I had with me, which is 24 now. So that means, he was probably 15 and you were 18 roughly. Because I remember he had maybe a little crush on you. So just in case he's watching.
That's funny. It's funny because I know your older son.
Cody, yeah.
Yeah. So when I met you, it was almost like we were kind of destined to run into each other one day.
Right.
So it's been awesome.
And I know your family a little bit too. Do you still have the same boyfriend?
Nope. It's just me.
Sorry. I knew I'd bring up a touchy subject. But I remember your boyfriend back then, and he was with you for several years. And do you have any new boyfriends right now?
Just me for honestly almost about 2 years now, but it's been awesome because I just focus on my own life, and
it's all about you. Well, we can make this a Match.com interview. We can put you out to the world right now, man. And I can make this happen for you. No. So I remember that. And then I followed your journey literally daily. And we have so many friends that I could see post and liking on your things that are really, I had no idea that they were all that connected to you as well. So it's become this really marching family for Tiffany and your journey. And, most of your posts and things get hundreds and hundreds of communications and likes and love, and the comments are unbelievable. So let me ask you, and it may be personal or not, but does that Facebook awareness and the contributions of others through likes and loves and comments and all that stuff, does that fuel you? Is that a big part of what keeps you going?
Absolutely. I mean, not necessarily, how many likes I get, but the fact that I have seen so many people from all over the world that don't know me at all. They just heard about my story through someone sharing or talking about it. Come on my page and offer, unconditional love and support and the most heartfelt words. And then people get invested in my story, and it helps me so much because I know, even when the times are hard and I might not have something positive to say that day, that I have a whole team of people that are still going to be there for me to hold me up and help me get through this. It makes me feel like I'm never alone going through this. And I feel like there's nothing more powerful than that, honestly. Like, love is the best thing in the world, and I've been fortunate to have a lot of it.
Yeah, you absolutely do. And, you know, I know I'm going to cry a couple times on this. It's just going to happen. So I'm just going to admit
I
it
might
now
too.
that
It's
I'm a
okay.
guy and I'm allowed to cry. But you know, it's
I
it's
won't
really
judge.
it's really tears of love. I have no feelings of like feeling bad for you. I mean, your journey is so incredible, but it's your love that brings out that emotion to me. And that's what I really, really love. So tell us a little bit about cystic fibrosis. And have you ever heard of it referred to? I think I told you this years ago, but 65 roses. Have you ever heard that?
I have,
Is that a popular translation? Because I know a lot of young children that have it, they came up with 65 roses since it was easier to pronounce.
and that has stuck around. It's amazing because, yeah, I know to this day they still even tell kids when they're newly diagnosed, because they do have such a hard time pronouncing cystic fibrosis, that you have 65 roses disease.
Wow.
And
That's
it's kind of
cool.
a cool little, story, and it sounds so much alike that,
I know. I didn't realize that. That's very cool.
but
Um,
it is, primarily a lung disease, genetic,
mhm.
and basically what happens with cystic fibrosis is it causes an overload of mucus in our bodies. And so even though primarily it affects the lungs, also our GI systems and pancreas and other organs are impacted, just
Mm,
because we have that overload of mucus just invading our body and, wreaking all this havoc.
interesting.
Um, and with my particular situation, it has always been affected, like impacted my lungs more than the rest of my body, which is why by the time I was 16, I started going through my first evaluation for a double lung transplant. I
Wow.
didn't even know it was a thing,
Is that
honestly.
right?
And I was going to UC Davis for clinics, and I was a freshman in high school when they originally brought this up to me and had told me, which I had known, that cystic fibrosis is progressive. So as you get older, it gets worse.
Mm,
Um, and that's because you deal with these reoccurring lung infections, and there comes a point when they just scar your lungs, and
right.
you can't reverse that scarring
Right.
after so long.
Is
And
that like pneumonia, or is what is it similar to? I'm really not, aware of how it works.
I mean, it is, like just being chronically sick every single day. And
Right.
then we, one of the biggest things for us as people with cystic fibrosis is that we have to be so aware of our surroundings and who is sick, because
True.
something that is a cold to someone that actually has an immune system and a healthy immune system can become quickly pneumonia for us, which
Wow.
turns into 2 to 3 weeks in the hospital and IV antibiotics.
Wow.
And so pretty much anything that is considered a common cold, is actually life threatening for us. And that's why over time, just catching these common colds, it really does irreversible damage to us and
Right.
gets to the point where our lungs can no longer reverse that, because it impacts your lung function. And so anytime you have scarring and you're not able to gain that function back, it decreases the overall lung function that you
Right.
live with. And there's only a certain amount, that you can still breathe with, which is why I needed a double lung transplant to live.
That's crazy. So when did you first learn that you had cystic fibrosis? What age were you?
So I was 7 days old,
Oh, wow.
an infant, and they had known that there was something wrong with my mom's pregnancy. They life flighted her to UC Davis in Sacramento.
After the pregnancy.
Yes,
Okay.
when I was going into labor, she was going
Oh,
into labor with me.
okay. Okay.
They life flighted her to Davis because they had known that there was something not quite right with the pregnancy.
Right.
I was a month premature, And
Gotcha.
then, yes, right when I was born, I was taken straight to surgery. And 7 days later, they came back and told my parents I have cystic fibrosis. I don't know if it's just because they didn't know quite as much about cystic fibrosis when my parents were young.
Right.
But I'm the only one we can directly find in my family that has
Really?
it. And it is genetic, so
It
it
is a
came from
genetic
somewhere.
disease, but it jumped generations or something.
Yeah, and it wasn't, even to this day, I feel like is one of my biggest factors in raising awareness for cystic fibrosis is a lot of people still just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And
I read there was less than 200,000 cases in the whole US per year, I guess.
right. So it's pretty rare, but then I guess when you look at how many people are now in the United States, it's not as rare as it might seem.
Yeah.
And so that is why I try to raise awareness for it, because it's, as much as I don't want it to, it also has kind of dictated my life. And, I
Absolutely.
want to find a cure for
Right.
as soon as I can.
Yeah, totally. And again, we talk about your positivity and stuff, and maybe against insurmountable odds at times, it seems. So walk me through the emotions of when you first found out you were in your teenage years that you had to have a double lung transplant.
Yeah, so it's ironic because, yes, I was a freshman going to public high school here, Shasta High School,
Yeah.
and I had actually hid CF from my closest friends, from anyone
Really?
at school my entire life, because of course you don't want to be that kid, that's different,
Yeah.
or get, questioned about why are you gone for weeks at a time.
Yeah.
um I just didn't, I've never wanted my disease to make an impact on how people look at me, because I'm still a human, and I never wanted anyone to treat me differently. So I actually hid it. And then when UC Davis told me that my only shot of survival was going to be to switch centers, so I go to Stanford now.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
It was UC
to
Davis. Now you're at Stanford, right?
Right, because Davis doesn't actually do double lung transplants.
Gotcha.
And so when they told me that news, at the same time, they actually told me if I did not switch schools to more like a homeschool or an independent school setting, I probably wouldn't have made it to even get a transplant, because one infection was so risky at
And
that
around
point
all
that
those kids and everything.
exactly. And so it was the beginning of my sophomore year. They gave me the news that I was going to need to switch, excuse me, to, put something stuck.
That's okay. Need some water?
Okay, there we go.
Good job.
So they gave me the news then that not only was I going to need to switch to Stanford to be evaluated, I was also going to have to switch to an independent school. And so, of course, when I made that change, from having all these friends every day and to all of a sudden being, secluded at home, a
Yeah.
lot of people reached out and had questions. And that was a turn of events for me, when I realized I shouldn't be hiding this. I should use this as, a way to raise awareness. And so I decided, I completely changed my perspective, and at that point, and quit worrying about, if I would be treated differently or anything like that, and instead wanted to embrace it. And I did. I made the switch to an independent school while I was getting listed at Stanford for my lungs. And around that same time actually is when I started fundraising, because I found out that I would have to move down to the Stanford area for 3 to 6 months afterward,
right.
For healing. And so I was, at the beginning, it was very scary to tell everyone that I have, a terminal illness, especially being 16.
Yeah.
But then it turned into something so beautiful because I started sharing my story, just through social media. And as I got sicker and required oxygen and wasn't able to leave my house as much, that became my connect to the world. And I was still able to write on my feelings, and I just received so much positive feedback and so much support, that it makes me wonder why, I didn't share it sooner.
Right, of course. But
it
totally
was,
normal reaction to hide it.
and yeah, it just became something that I never imagined it could be. I never realized that by sharing my story, I could reach so many people, and not just people that have told me I've made a difference to them, but even coming across people like you that have continually stayed in my life and supported me, and we've been able to support each other.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a mutual thing where I also meet people that, change my life, because I have put it out there. And it's been the biggest constant blessing, through all of the ups and downs of my health, is just having all these people not behind me, but I like to say that everyone's by my side, walking
Absolutely.
right with me.
Totally. You've become an ambassador really of hope and faith and inspiration. And, the journey that we've been beside you has been our pleasure. It's not, it's been nothing but an absolute pleasure to watch such a beautiful young lady. Just, when you see what you go through, I go, I am such a, excuse me, but are you kidding me? And so you rise people up in their belief of what is tolerable, what's allowed to control them. And that is amazing. And so for me, sometimes I'll be having an off day or whatever, and I'll scroll through and run across one of your posts. And it's like, you're being the one that's shoring everybody up. You're being the ray of sunshine, and it raises everybody else up because of it. And I do believe you've been an incredible leader and ambassador of that hope. To me, it just gets back to hope. And it is a terminal disease. It is something that you've got to fight for the rest of your life, literally. And,
Absolutely.
people take for granted. It's amazing that white men over 50, usually it's the wealthy that are the ones that kill themselves. It's like, it makes no sense that billionaires are killing themselves when there's perfectly healthy people trying to fight for their life.
And I feel that's, in my own eyes, of course, I did not choose the path of cystic fibrosis, and had I had a look into the future, I'm sure I wouldn't have picked it. No. But because I do have it, I honestly feel like it's such a blessing in that way, because life is not about money, and it's not about materialistic things. For me, when I wake up feeling okay and I can get out of bed and I can have a conversation with my parents, and weightlifting is one of my biggest things. I swear by it that it's helped keep me alive longer.
Wow.
If I can just complete those tasks for the day and be at home and not in a hospital bed, I feel like I've had a great day. And I think that in a way it's unrealistic to kind of put this view on everyone else, because I'm certain I also probably wouldn't have had it if I didn't have a terminal illness. But my hope by sharing my story is that, I can spread that view a little bit, because I think that we all get stuck in a rut, in a routine, and we get focused on money or focused on our careers, and we forget about the things that really matter. And, you know, life is short, and the truth is, I feel like once you're gone, the money you made isn't going to make a difference to you anymore. It's going to be how you lived your life, and, you know, your family, and all the love that you shared and, you know, received, because that's priceless. That's, you know, you can't buy those things. And I just feel super grateful that there's organ donors out there that have given me a chance to live here longer, because life is beautiful. Like, there's a lot of bad, but overall, life is just an awesome place to be.
I love you in your spirit, you know, and it is. Have you thought about writing a book?
It is something that crosses my mind, definitely, because again, I feel like I receive a lot of comments that I'm helping other people, and I'm so grateful. And I feel like if my struggles help even one person, then I will gladly go through this the rest of my life. But also, all the people that come in contact with me because of it and leave those types of comments change my life and, like, get me hyped up. And I hear a lot about you should write a book, and writing is something that is a passion to me, but it's more just, it's also a coping mechanism. And so when I receive, like, great feedback like that, it definitely fires me up to maybe write a book, because if people can enjoy it, and I also, you know, I'm helped by sharing, then, you know, I feel like I have a lot to gain and nothing to lose.
You do. You got it, sister. You really, I don't want to shit on you, but you should write a book. I mean, and if I can help in my limited capacity understanding of that, but I have some connections with ghostwriting, different things. I'm 100% able, willing, and wanting to help you do that if you choose to do that. Cause I think you have an amazing story of inspiration and hope and perspective to me. When I think of Tiffany, I think of perspective, and I think of hope, and I think of belief. And that's a thing that a lot of people miss. And you're absolutely right. We go through the caring about what other people say. And I love how in the beginning you said, I don't care about likes, because that's kind of like an exterior thing for you, right? It's exterior things don't matter. It's the internal stuff. It's the comments, it's the love, it's the support, it's the side by side. And too many people are getting caught up in this like world. And, you know, they judge everything based on how many likes they get on social media and stuff, which is just complete bullshit. And
I agree.
you know, and I'm trying not to cuss too much, so your mom and grandma and everybody could be proud to listen to your interview, because I'm a Coast Guard sailor, you know. But you know, and by the way, I want to say this: if you get tired, or if you need to take a break or breath or whatever, just please do that. I don't want you to feel like overdoing it. Because I could tell it's a little bit of a struggle to just be talking this much and stuff. And so please let me know. Okay. We will be just fine jumping off whenever you're ready for that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. I could talk to you all day, but let's make sure. Okay. So do you have a challenge, like continued talking? What's your breathing capacity at, if you know, how's that work?
So actually, what happens after you have cystic fibrosis, after you have your lungs replaced, is the reason, you know, that they do both lungs at the same time instead of one is because if they were to only do one, then cystic fibrosis would immediately infect my other one. So by removing both of them, they essentially get rid of cystic fibrosis in your lungs.
Right.
However, I still have it in the rest of my body. And then the problem then becomes organ rejection.
Oh.
And that's why my first set of lungs eventually failed, was because once you have an organ transplant, they suppress your immune system to almost where it's non-existent.
So it doesn't fight off that new lung.
Exactly.
Right. Because your body's a beautiful thing, but it's also a wicked mechanism, right?
And that's, that's where the problems start, unfortunately, is because you eventually, they keep you as immune compromised as they can have you without sending you into a world where you're going to catch everything. Because you have to at least have, a little something to fight.
Yeah.
But then that leaves the immune system open to realizing that these organs are not yours, and they attack them like an infection, because it picks up that it's not, hey, these lungs this is not what I was born with,
right,
and not my DNA.
We got to fight it.
We got to get rid of it.
Wow.
And so that is what happened with my first set of lungs, and what is actually happening to my second set of donor lungs. I was diagnosed with chronic rejection about a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
And there are different types of rejections. Some of them are curable. Chronic rejection, however, is not. And they pretty much describe it to you as you'll have one huge drop in your lung function, and then usually it'll stabilize for a little, and then you'll have another drop. I've been very fortunate for the past 11, 12 months to have stabilized lung function. However, this past week, it's always kind of a matter of when is this gonna actually hit and, start to take a toll. So I follow up with Stanford routinely, usually once a month. And I did have a clinic appointment this week that did not go very well, because I did see another significant drop in lung function. And pretty much how they base this lung function is if you have 80% of both of your lungs working together or above, they consider that normal. Okay. So in an average person that doesn't have cystic fibrosis,
right,
or chronic rejection. And when I became end stage CF, so when I was 18, before I ever received donor lungs,
right,
I functioned with an average of 25% of both my lungs together working.
Oh, does that feel like somebody standing on your chest, or what's the feeling of that?
It is. It's, you literally, I remember every word I would say, I would have to gasp, taking a good breath after, and exercising was not a part of my life because I felt like I was drowning with anything that I did. And I wore oxygen 24/7. But it's the scariest feeling in the world.
Yeah, it is. In the
like
Coast
having
Guard,
the wind knocked out of you.
Yeah, in the Coast Guard, they try to drown you just to get you to understand that feeling of being held underwater, because a lot of time rescue people will try to pull themselves out of the water on the rescue swimmer, which then puts us underwater, and we have to get used to, you can't get used to not breathing, but they want you to understand what it feels like to gasp and to be out of air. So I've had that unfortunate experience a couple of times, and it's the most frightening thing I've ever done in my life, is not being able to breathe. And people don't realize that unless they've been in a drowning situation or in your situation.
Definitely. I mean, because honestly, who wakes up in the morning, right, and goes about their daily activities thinking wow, I am so thankful that I have this air in my lungs, because it's so natural.
Granted. We take it for granted.
And for me, I have suffocated, is what it felt like, while still just clinging to life, because I was hoping for another shot to make it to lungs. And that was kind of what functioning with 25% lung function became like. Wow. And then, thank God for my donor, my first donor. I was actually, for the first time in my entire life, 18 years, I felt like I could breathe. I could take a
No
deep breath.
kidding.
I could hike. I could, I went skydiving, like
Wow.
just things that
You went skydiving?
I did because I knew
You're
I
a
had
little
the
adrenaline
lungs.
junkie, aren't you?
I knew I had the lungs, to do it. And
Wow.
I was just,
Good for
I
you.
like, I like adrenaline. Makes life exciting. And I know, like I said, that we're not here for a long time. I'm just here for a good time.
Good
So
one.
I like to do those kinds of crazy things.
Good for
But
you.
it
I saw
also,
you rock climb.
it's so being outside with nature, even when I was towing around oxygen all the time, to me, that's what life is.
Mm,
You cannot get any closer to it than nature, and, hearing the birds and just the things that people probably think are like cliche, to me, connect me the most and make me grateful. Like, hey, I'm alive and I'm here to enjoy these things and to be outside and breathe in fresh air. Um, so along, like, next to my writing, nature is something I definitely try to spend time in. It just reminds me what really matters, and
mm.
not to get too caught up in the hustle and bustle of, the craziness that life can be.
Yeah.
So I do love to hike, and that was something I spent my 5 years that I was given doing, and just doing things like going to college. I could not do that before because I didn't have the breath to walk around campus.
Right.
So those types of things, I was able to go back and have the gift of actually doing them. And again, I wasn't excited every single day I went to college, but the overall bigger picture was I'm alive to be able to even go, and that's not something I was supposed to do.
Right.
According to the doctors, I was not going to make it. And so I really tried to live every single breath of those donor lungs that I had, until I did need to be relisted, for a second double lung transplant at Stanford. And this time I declined much quicker. So with cystic fibrosis, essentially I had 18 years to kind of adapt and reach my end stage.
Yeah.
This time around, I had gone from 93% lung function, feeling like I was living, on top of the world,
Yeah.
to about 7 months later, I was at
Not nine.
9. And so even that, brought a whole new meaning to my life, because I thought I had seen the worst, and I thought I had pushed my body to its limits, by functioning with 25%. And I was still hanging on with 9. And that just serves as like a great reminder that our bodies and our minds are way more powerful than we
Infinitely
give credit
powerful.
for.
Yeah, totally.
And
Um, how's your family and your close friends? Do they have a different look in life because of your looking at through your eyes and your experiences?
I know that I'm very close, with my family,
Yeah.
and everything I go through, they go through it with me,
Right.
and we all definitely know the value of life, and we make our time. We're a family that spends a lot of quality time together, and probably most people my age are out, at the bars and out, doing things like that, where
Right.
I have a different view, and so does my family, and we really just try to make the most of what we have, because we
Cherish
know
time, our
it's
most
something
valuable commodity.
exactly, you can't get it back. And so I think that, they do appreciate life, just by seeing what I've struggled through just trying to live.
Right. And this, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but to me, I'm like, I want to take somebody that's smoking on purpose, damaging their beautiful, perfect lungs, and just choke them out personally now. And, you know, do you go through those kind of emotional things to where you see somebody taking something for granted, whether it's drug use or abuse of alcohol or whatever it is, and then that you just, from your perspective, I'd love to hear what your brain thinks, being in a capacity of knowing that people are taking really for granted what God's gift is, which is perfectly healthy, functional, everything from lungs beyond.
So, I mean, I come from a place of when I see people struggle with addiction or, you know, bad habits, I know that none of us are perfect. And it's, you know, it's really easy, I guess, to, if you're not struggling with your health, it's not something that you think about. Of course, I'm like over here, you know, with me and my friends even that are on, you know, transplant list, and
Right.
because it is something out of our control, there is a part of me that I don't feel anger or anything like that. I wish I could make them feel, or not even feel what I've felt, but just see life through my eyes, because I
That's a
think
great
that would be
statement.
enough of a motivation to change. I feel
Great statement.
mostly just sadness for them because they're missing out on what could be, you know, 90% lung function and living a great quality life.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, especially the ones that get stuck in addiction and things like that, it can be a waste. And
Right.
that's what makes me sad for them, is because they're missing out on a lot. And it's not something I really take personal, but
Yeah.
it's hard, of course.
I expected a classy answer like that from you, young lady. I really did. And, you know, we have to embrace everybody where they are, right? Because everybody's on their own journey. Shoot, my own journey has changed in the last 2, 3, 10, 20 years. And I just finished a physical, thought it was a physical 75 hard challenge, it's called. I don't know if you've tracked with it on the internet at all, but basically it's 75 days of 2 workouts a day and this whole regiment of things to do. And I completed it. And for me, it was amazing how much mental it was. It was not physical. It was physical for 10 or 15 days. Then it was all mental, because you just want to quit when nobody's looking. You could cheat easily. You know, it's for you. And going through that, I had several stages of ahas. And some of the ahas were, when I'm eating a cheeseburger, I know it's bad for me, or if I'm drinking excessively and I know it's bad for me, and I'm mentally blocking it because I'm putting in a proportionate can that I'm good over here, but this and that. And when you get completely clear and have clarity, which maybe you're in that place health-wise, or the understanding and not taking it for granted. For me, I realized I was taking it for granted that I had that option and opportunity, and that every decision I made had an alternate consequence to it. And so for me, it elevated my coaching. It elevated my belief in health. And I think I might even be a vegetarian now, which is scary to say on camera.
Oh my, no bacon?
No bacon? Dude, I guarantee my friend in North Carolina or in Louisiana that listens to this is going to fall out of his chair laughing right there on the bacon thing. But, you know, again, for me, it's in moderation. I'm not quitting eating meat and dairy necessarily because I'm trying to save cattle or chickens. That's not me, right? I'm just being integral. I believe that there's some real challenges in those areas, but for me, it's knowledge. When I watched a show and they it's called Game Changers, and they talk about how your body thrives plant-based foods, and your body, you know, has a lot of healing properties in plant-based foods. And I'm like, well, cavemen ate meat. And they're like, well, actually, they think cavemen were vegetarians. And I'm like, you know, it just changes everything you believe. And then all of a sudden when you lose that, it opens up the next category of belief and what's possible. And, you know, for me, I relate it to your vision of what you're going through. And I'm just so impressed by you of how you're able to compartmentalize, this is my situation, this is what I can do about it. And I think
Exactly.
that's literally the holy grail for people. And if they get anything out of this, I think they take away that beautiful soul that you have that is able to say that. And you could hate the world. You know, a lot of people live in a place of blame and a place of this. I haven't heard that out of your mouth one time. And
I think I get asked that question, especially now being in palliative care, and people ask me, being 26, how do you not wake up every day bitter? And I feel like, if anything, the fact that I am kind of on a ticking time clock is more of a reason for me to focus on my blessings and be happy and get out and do what I can
totally,
do while I'm still able to do it, because
totally.
I'm already losing time, and I don't want to be miserable. I'm not a miserable person. I know that my situation could be so much worse. I could have been dead a long time ago. And because of people that, have chose to be donors, I am still here. And I feel it's my job and, my desires to live the happiest and most fulfilling life I can, especially knowing that it's probably going to be short, but that's okay, because I, I can have peace knowing that I have a lot of love and I have so many blessings. And I think that living miserable and being bitter gets you nowhere. It's not going to take away the fact that I have cystic fibrosis. And what I can control is how I respond to my news. And that's the best thing that I can do for myself, so that I'm actually happy when my journey does reach an end.
I just love you. You really are an inspiration to me and a lot
Thank
of people,
you.
a lot of people.
Thank
So
you so much.
you're welcome. As we, excuse me, as we wrap up this segment, what is the one thing you'd like to leave in people's minds as a takeaway from this interview with us together?
Just don't get stuck on the small things. Don't worry too much about the future and, or about what's happened in the past, because you could really be missing out on great things that are happening right now and today. And, just make the most of your time, and spread love. I feel like I've been so blessed as far as how much love I received and how much I can give. And that's the best thing about life. And, just appreciate what you have before it's gone would be my biggest thing.
That's a big thing. I really appreciate you being here today. It means a tremendous amount to me. It's one of my favorite shows and segments.
Thank you so
And
much.
I know there's a lot of people that love and care about you. If they want to reach out to you, what's the easiest way for them to get a hold of you?
So I am on Facebook. I share all my updates on Facebook. So you're more than welcome to, go find my Facebook page, Tiffany Center. Send me a message. I'm very responsive. I'm
Yes, you
friendly.
are.
Welcome to share, what I know, and, also just connect with other people. It's awesome both ways.
Right. I love that. Well, thank you for being here today. You don't have a boyfriend, so I'm going to give you a kiss. Boom.
Thank you so much
I
for the
appreciate you.
opportunity.
Have a wonderful day, and God bless, and have a great holiday season. Next couple days is Turkey Day.
Thank you. I'll definitely be eating a
Tiffany,
lot. You
thank you for
too.
your time. We love you. We support you. We appreciate you.
Thank you so
All
much.
right, bye for now.
Bye.